Well, everyone, welcome to the fastest 16 minutes in technology. We show 11 o'clock on the money, so we are starting our webinar. We have Steve Wright on the phone, who is with Nex-Tech, of course, and Scott Schaefer, who is with our partner at Intel. We have a webinar today called WiDi, or did you mean Wi-Fi? They're going to explain a little bit about that, what the differences are, and much more, of course. And you'll be glad to know that towards the end of the webinar, we're going to explain to you how you can win a free WiDi just from being on the webinar today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve and Scott.
All right, thank you, Tricia. And Scott, glad to have you with us today. Scott, you're from Intel, but can you give us a little quick background on yourself and what you do there at Intel?
Yeah, Steve, good morning. Good morning to everybody on the line. I'm Scott Schaefer from Intel. We've worked with Nex-Tech for a number of years and know Steve and his team very well. What I do at Intel is I manage technology deployment programs for generally small and mid-sized businesses. So when Intel has some new technology that we think that has value, we'll come to partners like Nex-Tech and say, hey, would you like to take a look? Would you like to show this to your customers? And we've done that in a number of cases.
All right, thank you, Scott. And you know, a lot of people aren't familiar with the WiDi device, and I know that I wasn't just a few months ago. I had a chance to get one of these units, and I've used it very frequently in business for some presentations and things that I've done. But essentially, this is wireless display. Is that how you would best describe it?
Yeah, it is a wireless display, but the thing that is new is it's wireless display adapted for business. So, and that's what we'll talk about today. If you know, a lot of folks may be using a Chromecast or a Miracast or an Apple AirPlay at home. Those are all wireless display technologies, and they work fine, but when you come to business, there's some unique requirements that those consumer-based or home-oriented wireless displays don't cover. So you can think about this as just like a consumer wireless, except it's secure and it's very manageable. And the manageability features are what makes it pretty cool for business. And we'll talk about those features this morning. But other than that, it's a pretty simple technology, and it allows you, once you get rid of the wires between you and your monitor, life just gets simpler in some really interesting ways. It's like there's no real rocket science here, but boy, when you don't have to find the cable, when you don't have to hunt around for the dongle to hook up, you can just, you know, connect with your laptop or a desktop, if there's a desktop in the conference room or wherever you are, just by pushing a button and you're going. It's a much smoother experience, and it's the kind of thing where the first time you use it, it's like, yeah, I want this in my conference room, or I want this, you know, ultimately wherever I am, which, you know, eventually it will. We think it'll propagate pretty far. So, but that's basically what it is. And the nice thing is it works with any display that's got a VGA or an HDMI connector, which is pretty much virtually all the displays that we see in business settings as well as in home settings today. So it's very versatile. Once it's set up, it's very simple. So with the responses that we're getting from it is like, yeah, this is something we're going to standardize on from a lot of customers.
And so the business case that you're really setting up here is for any kind of a business conference room or room where you might have a lot of people who may need to connect to that projector or that TV screen. Instead of having to figure out all those adapters that you need now, which, I don't know, I carry like 5 of them anymore in my bag, depending on the device that I want to connect, I have eliminated that, and then I can move it just wirelessly, which is pretty important. And I think you've got a pretty good picture of that here on this next slide. But the first question that I get a lot of questions on is, what do I need to put on my PC or my tablet?
Yeah, so as you can see in the picture, there's 2 pieces to it. There's the hockey puck, which is the Pro WiDi adapter. That's the piece that you plug into your monitor or your TV display or whatever you're using to see what's on your PC screen. The hockey puck that's the new piece. That's the piece that you would go buy. The other piece is the PC. So what we're showing here are vPro-based PCs. So a number of you may have talked to your Nex-Tech partner about, Intel vPro technology-based PCs. In the background, the great thing about vPro-based PCs is they allow Nex-Tech to manage your system in some pretty advanced ways that make what they do for you go even smoother and faster. So, and Steve and his team can talk to you about that if they haven't already. But we show a vPro-based PC paired with the WiDi adapter because you need to have a vPro-based PC to use the management functions, which we'll talk about those in a second, but they're part of what makes this so whizzy is the management functions. You can use other PCs with the WiDi adapter. In fact, you can use most other PCs with it, but you won't have the real flexible capabilities that we'll show you. I think we show it on the next slide, the cool things you can do in terms of managing who's doing what with the display. So that's why the solution looks like these two pieces. You've got the vPro-based PC that you attach to the adapter, and then wirelessly you attach it to the adapter, and the adapter is attached to by a small cable to the display.
So essentially, on the PC side, as long as I have a vPro technology and the operating system going on there, then I don't need anything else. I've got everything I need on the PC side or the tablet side. Then I buy this hockey puck, I plug it into power, I plug it into HDMI, VGA, whatever I've got, and it stays with the TV ideally, meaning I can put that in my conference room. I don't move that around, even though it's, I don't know, maybe 3.5, 4 inches by 3.5, 4 inches, something like that. But you can put one on every TV, and we'll talk about the cost. It's very low. But that can just stay in the conference room. So anybody that comes into my room with this vPro technology on their unit, they can now project onto that wireless display, correct?
That is correct, although it's interesting. Some folks are going to carry one as well because, so say I come to visit a customer. I know they have a conference room. I've got a vPro-based PC, but they don't have WiDi. I can just take it with me. The PC is configured for use, so I can plug it into their monitor. So it actually can also become a portable capability as well, although you're not going to want to take it out of your conference room because the next person walking into the conference room is going to be unhappy that it's gone. So, and it is fairly low cost, so it can become an accessory that people are going to carry around.
Absolutely. Now, you talked a little bit about what it looks like to set it up, and I'm just going to add here, having done it myself, maybe 5 minutes is what I experienced, and that's from the point in time that I literally took it out of the box, plugging in my HDMI cable, plugging it into power, going over to my PC, and getting this going. It was so simple. So walk us through what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so, and you're right, it is simple. If you've got a fairly recent vPro-based PC, it should be about a 5-minute setup. If you've got older PCs, then, because this WiDi is about 6 months old, so it's not backwards compatible with everything. So if you've got some very old PCs, it may not be compatible, but your partners at Nex-Tech, that's what they're going to do for you, is tell you, which of your PCs are compatible. But once you set it up, the first screen you're going to see is this white screen that I'm showing here. Very, very simple. And what we're showing on this slide is the 3 different modes. And this is where it gets kind of cool. You, on your PC, you control who presents and how they present. So you can be in a mode where you're the only presenter and it's going to stay that way. Or you can put it in a mode where others can request to present, and that request would show up on your screen, and you just, click and give them permission. Or you can, do it the other way, where you request that they present, and then that shows up on their PC. So those are the 3 meeting modes. And when you see this in action, it seems like it's okay. That's fine. But when you see it in action, it's pretty cool to be able to control the meeting very smoothly and say, hey, Jim, I'd like you to show what you've got. You've got the spreadsheet on your PC. I'd like you to display that for everybody. And then, 2 seconds later, Jim's got the spreadsheet up there. So it makes meetings, there's less interruption. There's less disruption of the flow of what you're doing in the meeting. It just becomes very smooth to pass the baton, which, I was in an all-day meeting at Intel headquarters yesterday where it was, shame on us. It was a conference room without Pro WiDi, and sure enough, every 15 minutes we're unhooking one PC and hooking up the next PC, and it works, but it's just it just slows everything down. So this is a management part.
You had to teach everybody to hit function F7 and do all those different pieces.
Yeah.
So the wireless is almost easier for sure.
Yeah, and is my machine going to present? And, am I waiting for it to present, or did I hit the wrong button, and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yep, so you've got a few benefits, which we talked about. No dongles, obviously, that's pretty straightforward. VGA and HDMI. The one thing I learned here on that is if you're doing VGA, your audio, you need to figure out what you're doing with your audio. Whereas HDMI is going to carry your audio signal right to the display. If it has it, if you have a projector, just be aware of audio, because some projectors have speakers, some don't. Sometimes you want to pair another, maybe wireless speaker or something like that. So just be aware of your audio if you have audio with your presentation. I know to have that. Scott, you talked a little bit about switching between presenters, which I think we covered pretty straightforward. I had this reminding you when you're still projecting. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I'll show you there. If you are not aware that you're projecting or not aware of where you're projecting, you can get into trouble. And we'll show it. The interesting case study on that we're going to show on the next slide. But it really helps sometimes to know, hey, I'm still projecting, and maybe I don't want to be projecting. Maybe I'm now looking at something sensitive on my machine. So it helps to know if you still are projecting, and it's got an indicator that makes that really clear in your control console. So that's a helpful thing. This next bullet does not consume network bandwidth. This can be very important in a couple of ways. So if you use a home grade or consumer grade wireless display, it's working within your corporate network, both wireless and the physical network. And depending on what you're doing, either on your display or in the corporate network, that can cause problems for your display or for other people on the network. So a great example is high definition video. With Pro WiDi, it does a great job with high definition video. And it does it without placing that video on your corporate network. So it is using Wi-Fi, but it's a direct connection between your PC and the display. It's not going through the wireless network. It's not going through the corporate network. So this can actually be a good thing. You're avoiding problems for what you're trying to do, and also avoiding clogging up the network, which high definition video can do a pretty good job of. So that's a nice feature. And the last thing, keep your data secure. This is a big deal. If you use a consumer grade wireless display device in any setting, but in a business setting particularly, that can become a very open access point that hackers can get to. So with Pro WiDi, it's not an open access point. It's protected. So it keeps your corporate data, much, much more secure, which is an important feature.
Absolutely. And, the one thing I wanted to add here was just kind of related to your previous point. We took one of the tablets, connected to one of our screens, and played some kind of a YouTube video and measured the lag. And when I'm staring at both of these devices, it was so minimal that you almost couldn't see the difference between what was on the tablet and what was on the TV, even though it was going through the wireless connection. So that's pretty important, especially if you're doing presenting and things, making sure that, with today's technology, be able to write on and things like that, you want it to be pretty much real time, and that definitely works.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the privacy settings.
Yeah, so this little graphic here says it all. So here you've got 6 conference rooms. You're having a sensitive conversation with one employee in one of those conference rooms. Maybe you're projecting something about their performance review, and oops, you're also showing it to the conference room next door, and you don't know it. That's what can happen with a consumer type wireless display. With Pro wireless display, that won't happen. You always know what you're projecting, you always know where you're projecting it, and it's always limited to one screen. So this is just a pothole you can fall into with a home-style wireless display, which is not good.
Gotcha. So we're giving away one of these. Tell us about the details.
Yeah, so this is pretty fun. I'm looking forward to this. So we're going to give away one of these today to one of you for attending, but we're also going to give away a couple of others as follows. Tell us where you would use it, and we don't need any big story. Just a couple of bullets. Where would you put it? Would you put it in a conference room or on a sales floor or some other creative place? And then what kind of things would you do with it? Do you expect that you do presentations with it, sales meetings, customer meetings, better collaboration? Kind of give us a little bit about how you think that's going to benefit you and your business and your mission. And if you just send that to Tricia, we're going to take those and pick the 2 most interesting ones and send you out a free Pro WiDi adapter and see what, does that actually come true, what you anticipated doing.
And we're going to give away the first one of these within 24 hours today. So make sure you get those initials, and they're only going to Nex-Tech customers, right? The people who are sitting on this webinar.
That's right. We've never done this before, and I'm looking forward to what we get back.
Awesome. So with that, we are going to look to talk to Tricia. So if you have any questions, you can enter them on the pane to the right, and Tricia will tell us what we have. But thank you, Scott, for giving us a good tour. And Tricia, what do you got for us?
We do have a few questions. I want to remind everyone, keep entering the questions, and we'll answer everything before the webinar is over. As Steve and Scott both mentioned, we're going to give away a total of 3 of these. One of these is going to be given away today within 24 hours. So just for being on the webinar, shoot me your information that's on the screen now, how you would use it and all of those specifics. Email that to me. We'll pick one before the end of the day, and I'll notify you that you won. Everyone else who enters today also gets rolled over to our additional drawing. Most of you or all of you probably already get our e-newsletter. It'll be out September the 10th, and we're going to have an article about the WiDis in there as well, and we're going to ask for the same information from everybody who reads that newsletter article to go ahead and enter the same information and send it back to me, and we're going to give 2 away by the 17th of September, so 1 week after the newsletter comes out. So several chances to win, and also remind you guys that at nextech.com/free webinar, this recorded webinar will be played, as well as you'll be able to sign up for our additional webinars throughout the end of the year. With that, we have quite a few questions to get to, so I'll go over there and ask you guys the questions. Number 1, what is the range from the PC to the display that you can use the WiDi, and can you project to more than one screen?
That's great.
I'm going to let you handle that.
Yeah, 2 great questions. So this is a Wi-Fi device. So whatever your range in your Wi-Fi environment, which is typically 200, 250 feet, something like that, it'll work. So just think Wi-Fi, and you've got it, because it is working. Pro WiDi is working over the Wi-Fi. It's a direct Wi-Fi connection. Can you present to more than one screen? Not at this point. I mean, that's something that may be in the future as the product matures, but at this point, it's a one-screen device.
Now let's clarify on that, Scott. If you had the same content on 2 screens, we can put splitters to, have maybe 2 42-inch screens with the same content from
Absolutely.
the same WiDi device. But if you want multiple monitors per se on a WiDi connection, not at this time. So
that's exactly correct. Yeah, you generally couldn't have 2 monitors in 2 widely separated spaces. If it's a dual monitor situation, then you'd be okay.
There you go.
That's a great question.
Tricia?
Okay. You may have answered this, but are you able to be on a wireless network and use this device at the same time?
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely.
That was an easy one. Okay, good. Can one PC drive multiple screens, like 5 to 6? I think that's what you were saying within split, yes or no?
Yeah, that's the same question, yeah.
And now, let's be clear, too, Scott, I believe that you could run more than one screen local, but then one additional WiDi. Is that correct?
I am not sure about that, Steve. We can find the answers to that, but I am not sure if you can do that.
Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, the direct answer, can you run multiple? We obviously know you can't run multiple WiDis at this time for multiple screens, but can you run multiple screens physically connected? You obviously can. Can you mix and match that with WiDi? We'll have to find an answer to that.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to know how they can know if the display is compatible, or is any Wi-Fi enabled TV compatible?
I'll answer that question. So the TV, you have to have the hockey puck. So it's that piece. And there's multiple versions out there, but the little puck that we showed on one of these previous screens, which I can quickly review back to here, that's what makes the TV wireless, is this white device here on the right, the thing that's called the hockey puck. So that's what makes the TV wireless. So as long as you have VGA or HDMI and this device, you are now ready to go on the display side. On the PC side, things are not quite as simple, but one of the easiest ways to look to at least generically see if you're ready to go is if you have that Intel Inside sticker on your device and it says V Pro, which is that small V, big PRO, then you can see that we're getting closer. There's no guarantees here, but you're getting closer. And of course, we can help you if you give us the part number of your device. We can specifically tell you if your device is ready to roll.
Yeah. That reminded me of one thing, Steve. Shoot, it's now. Oh, yes. So do you always need the hockey puck? Yes. However, we expect that some devices are going to start to come with Pro WiDi embedded, and we know that there will be projectors with Pro WiDi embedded. What we're not so sure of is, will there be TV monitors, large display type monitors with Pro WiDi embedded? There may or may not be. It's up to the TV monitor manufacturers. We obviously, we think we can make an argument for doing that, but it's pretty clear that there will be projectors with Pro WiDi embedded. So when it's embedded, then what it just means is you no longer need the hockey puck.
And then I also want to add here that we may not have mentioned, in addition to giving some of these away, we do have some demo units here at Nex-Tech. So if you'd like to try this out and try one of our units to try in your room, we'd be glad to have you bring one out and let you play with it and set it up. From a setup standpoint, any one of us can help you get it set up because, again, it's so simple. So if you have any concerns in your particular environment, both on range and on whether your device supports it, we can help from that standpoint and let you try it out.
Yeah.
That's
and
a
Steve,
great idea. I'd like to do that.
We ought to mention getting the right hockey puck, right? So one thing we've found, if you go shopping for the ActionTech adapter, you're going to see a number of different types. There's a $50 basically there's a $50 version and a version that's $150, $170. And the way ActionTech does their naming, it can be difficult to determine which is the right one. If it's a $50 adapter, it's not the right adapter. That's a consumer-oriented device. It's more in the $150, $170 range, and your Nex-Tech partner can help you make sure you're getting the right one.
And the key factor there is that meeting piece where you're controlling the users across that WiDi. That's the distinguishing factor between the low cost and the more expensive unit. Tricia?
Yeah, all the privacy and security features are dependent on it being Pro WiDi rather than just WiDi. That's an important point.
Okay, next question. Will this work on a dual video adapter machine so I could continue to work on the PC while displaying a customer concierge display?
The answer to that is yes, I have done that.
All right, quick and simple. Can I use the wired network to display remotely?
I'm not sure I understand that question. You use the wired network to display remotely. So could you run it across like a VPN to another location? It's strictly I think is the question. And if we're not hitting your question, please let us know. No, it's a Wi-Fi connection essentially, so it's wireless. So you can't run it across an Ethernet TCP/IP connection to then resolve it via this device. There are solutions out there that allow that to happen, but this particular solution is not that piece.
Okay. Does the WiDi work with Mac Air or a Mac that's 3 years old?
If I'm almost sure it won't, and here's the issue. It will work. You can hook up any Miracast compatible device, and what I'm not sure is, are Apple devices Miracast compatible?
They're not.
Yeah, I was going to guess that they're not, because yeah. So then the answer is no.
And let's talk a little bit about Miracast, because they're embedded in the WiDi device. So if you have the ones that we've seen that have been compatible are the Android phones. So they have that capability. A couple of our sales reps have some Miracast-enabled phones, the LGs and the Samsungs in particular, the newer models of that have there. So you can just connect it via the same way we're connecting via the PCs. You can connect to this device with your phone, which is pretty slick. The things that we've run into on that particular deployment is most of us have our phones set to go to sleep very quickly because you want to save your battery. And so then the display goes to sleep when your phone goes to sleep, so you have to change those settings. But it does work pretty well, can be a way to present, but it's not going to give you the full feature PowerPoint and things like that your PC will have. Tricia?
All right. One person just wants to clarify, the audio does work over WiDi as long as the end display has speakers, correct?
Yeah, so the hockey puck itself comes with a couple adapters in it. So if you're running it over HDMI, audio is included in the HDMI signal. And so if the TV has speakers or whatever you're connecting that to, no problem with the audio. The VGA adapter actually separates the audio out. So you have the VGA adapter that then sends signal video, and then a headphone jack essentially for the audio. So you would have to have a speaker or something. But the direct answer to that is, does the Pro WiDi send audio along with video? Yes.
Okay. Is there a way to run? Is there any way to run on a remote screen at another facility by connecting some type of network device?
Yes. We do this quite frequently. It just becomes a network device. Again, not related to Pro WiDi. This is a completely different discussion, but it becomes a network display adapter, and we can set those up. They are a little bit more pricey than this, and then the other things that you need to be aware of are bandwidth, meaning if you're showing a static image, really easy, life's pretty good. If you're showing a video or something that's moving, there's a lot more considerations that have to go into place there, and the resolution comes into play. So the conversation gets a little more complex. But I want to be clear, not a WiDi deployment, but we do have solutions within Nex-Tech to help you with that.
Okay, great. Now I have a couple of model numbers. I don't know if you guys want to write this down or if we want to just shoot them an email afterwards, but it's what's the difference between the SBWD100A01 versus the SBWD100BE02. Is that just something easier to answer off in email format? Unless you guys know those off the top of your head. I obviously don't.
I'm looking at, okay, so the one that is a 02, Scott, that's the Action Tech units that we're giving away.
Right. And an easy way to I'm not looking at those SKU numbers, but an easy way to tell is that generally the two different flavors are they're about $50 and about $150, $160. So that's if you're looking online, that's the way to know which is the right one.
Which you know, again, the one that we're giving away, which is the Pro Business Edition, ends in the 02.
Okay, so do you know the difference between the two? I think was the first question.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you on the other model. So the one with the 02 has the built-in business class projection, which gives you the ability to share and control that environment, which is that screen that we showed. Let me pull it up. This screen right here, the white Intel screen, that is on the business edition. The other one will allow you to project, but will not allow like the conference room capabilities where you can share, where you can tell other people in the room to take control and things like that.
Right, and it also doesn't have the privacy and security features either. It's kind of a wide open. You're making a fairly wide open connection, which exposes you to some security issues.
Okay. Can you use this in a video conference situation?
Absolutely.
Great. Is there any literature or brochures they can have that goes over all the features and capabilities, or would you just refer them to one of you or a website?
I don't know if
There are.
Scott has any.
Yeah, we do, which I can make available through Nex-Tech.
All right.
Okay, great.
We'll get those to Tricia.
Thank you. I can just send them out and make them, yes, available for everyone then. Will it power over a powered HDMI port?
No.
All right, short and simple. Can audio still be played out of the computer if you use the VGA connection?
Yes. The thing that I have identified is you have to go into your audio control panel to tell it if you want it to go a different direction than default, which default would be over this Pro WiDi. You just have to tell it you want the audio to go out the local headphone jack or the local speakers or a Bluetooth speaker, whatever it is. I am going to give you a little bit of caution that I found using Bluetooth. I have found that if you're playing videos and you want to go with a local Bluetooth speaker to your laptop, there can be more of a delay on the Bluetooth than there is on the video, so your video will be fractions of a second ahead of the Bluetooth speaker, which can be kind of annoying and offsetting. I think we've all seen that where the audio doesn't match the person speaking on the display. So what I have found is, in my particular case, we were using a projector. We simply ran the headphone jack out of the projector into that Bluetooth speaker because it had a regular jack too. It solved that delay issue, but just be aware that wireless speakers can cause that.
Okay, and here's the last question we have. Can you use two WiDis from one computer? As an example, they wanted to show the same presentation on two screens pointing in different directions.
I think we covered that with a no. You could connect two screens to the same WiDi, but not two WiDis to the same computer.
Right, but you did say earlier that you could, because their example they wanted you to do is to show the same presentation on two different screens pointing in the different direction. Is that part possible with the one WiDi?
It is with one WiDi. You will need a splitter after the WiDi device to split the HDMI or the VGA, which are very nominally cost.
Okay, great. I want to thank everybody for all their questions today. It was a very informative session, and thanks Scott for being online with us today for our fastest 16 minutes. Again, this session is recorded and will be hosted out at nextech.com/free webinar for you to review. We'll get the information emailed out to you guys that we spoke of in here, and thanks again for attending. Goodbye.